Okay, so hi everyone. Now we are going to do your lecture one or the introduction part of your genetics. Based on our primer that that I gave you, the introduction part is consists of the following. First one, the introduction to genetics. Number two, basic heredity, and number three is I think that's meiosis and mitosis. So let's start with the introduction. Might be uh, oh, lots of time to do this. Okay, so let's do the introduction. So the first question is, when exactly did people first recognize the heredity nature of traits? So the early recognition of heredity, we have your example, your prehistoric times, observation of inheritance. Long before genetics was a science, early humans noticed that traits could be passed on. Halimbawa, offspring of strong, fast, or docile animals tended to resemble their parents. Similarly, katulad sa seeds from plants with desirable traits, bigger fruits, better taste, higher yield, often grew into plants with the same qualities. But it all started with selective breeding. Around 10,000 years ago, during the Neolithic revolutions, humans began domesticating animals like dogs, cattle, sheep, and also cultivating plants katulad ng wheat, rice, and maize. Farmers and herders intentionally bred individuals with favorable traits. There are such as stronger oxen for plowing or sweeter fruits for food. This was the first practical recognition of heredity, even when the mechanism was unknown. There are also some ancient Greeks like Hippocrates and Aristotle proposed theories of inheritance, the pangenesis, and also there is your Aristotle theory of inheritance. The idea that the traits from all parts of the body contributed to the offspring. These ideas were speculative and experimental. And also, the consistent results of selective breeding proved that traits were heritable. This laid to the groundwork for Gregor Mendel in the mid 18th century, systematically studied inheritance in pea plants and uncovered the laws of heredity. So the first one is the theory of pangenesis, and this is what I mentioned earlier. The basic idea is Hippocrates believed that the body was governed by four humerus: the blood, the phlegm, black bile, and yellow bile. This health and disease were explained by their imbalance. He proposed that seeds or particles from all parts of the body were collected and passed on to offsprings. These particles carry the qualities of the body, whether healthy or diseased. If the parent's body changed, halimbawa, nagbago dahil sa lifestyle or injury, these changes will also could be reflected in the offspring. And I just want to point out, this was one of the first natural, non-supernatural explanation of heredity. Although incorrect, it influenced thinking about inheritance for centuries. The idea that acquired traits could be inherited resurfaced much later if you're familiar with Lamarck's theory of evolution. So, again, Hippocrates thought heredity worked by passing on body particles, the humors, to offspring, meaning both healthy, meaning both health and disease, even acquired changes could be inherited. The other one, by Aristotle, the theory of inheritance with vital heat. Aristotle he rejected the idea that particles or seeds from all body parts were passed on. Naniniwala siya na heredity was driven by a vital principle. That's called their vital heat. The father's semen carried what Aristotle called vital heat, which is a kind of life force or organizing energy. These vital heat shaped and directed development, acting as the form or the blueprint for the offspring. In his understanding, the semen did not contribute physical material. Instead, it contained the instructions for form and function. So ano nga ba yung role ng nanay, the material principle? Um, the role of the father is the active principle, the role of the mother is the material principle. The mother provided the material substance for developing embryo, which he thought came from the menstrual blood. And this was the matter that the father's vital heat acted upon. In his simple terms, the mother provided the raw material, and the father's vital heat molded it into life. Although the father's role was dominant, form giver, he recognized, Aristotle did recognize, that both parents contributed traits which were thought to blend in the child. Sabi niya that physical changes acquired during parents' lifetime are not inherited since they do not affect semen or menstrual blood. So, again, Aristotle's theory centered on vital heat in the father's semen as the active, shaping force, while the mother contributed the material foundation. This idea dominated thinking about heredity for almost 2 millennia until modern genetics replaced it. So, this period is consistent, the birthplace of modern biological thought. During this time, scientists began shifting away from purely philosophical explanations like Hippocrates and Aristotle's, and started proposing testable theories about how organisms developed and inheritance traits as well. So, meron tayong what we call your theory of epigenesis. This was proposed by William Harvey, who studied embryology. The This theory states that an organism develops gradually from the fertilized egg through a series of progressive steps until it becomes fully formed adult. Again, if you're going to look back in your dev bio, fertilization, the egg is relatively simple. Development happens through succession, differentiation. New structures and functions arise step by step. So the embryo is not preformed, but rather constructed over time. So it the theory of epigenesis marked a turning point instead of imagining that all traits and body parts are prepackaged. It recognized that organisms are built by step from a fertilized egg. And these concepts still underpins the developmental biology and as well some genetics. Another one is theory of preformation. So preformation states that the fertilized egg are already contains a fully formed miniature human called your homunculus or little man. Development was thought to be simply the enlargement of the pre-existing structure. We have two versions. It comes from spermists and ovists. Spermist people, spermist group people, group na lang, sige. Spermist group believes the homunculus was inside the sperm. The mother only provided nourishment. According naman to Ovis group, believe that homunculus was inside the egg and the sperm only activated its growth. So, the idea of the performation theory, no structures are created during development. Everything that will exist in the adult is already preformed at the moment of um, fertilization. The problem with this theory is um, it could not explain variation between offspring. It's also implied an infinite regression, homunculi within homunculi inside gametes, going back to natin, Adam and Eve. So, but it has historical impact kasi nga pre-formation was somehow fit with religious ideas of creation. Eventually, yun nga, napalitan ito ng theory of epigenesis by Harvey Wolff na ibig sabihin show the development which is a gradual stepwise process. Again, we're going to um, uh, define these two. So, again, preformation, meaning each human already exists, just grows bigger. Epigenesis, fertilized egg gradually develop new structure step by step. So these are the two um, modern biology when theories were born. Another one is a cell theory. I'm not going to discuss this anymore. I believe this has been discussed you back then. Cell theory formulated by Schleiden, Schwann, and Virchow. So Schleiden proposed that all plant cells are made up of cells. Schwann proposed that all animals are made up of cells. And Virchow added the famous idea of omnis cellula el cellula. All cells arise from, sorry, omnis cellula is cellula. All cells arise only from pre-existing cells. So the core principle of cell theory are the following. All living organisms are composed of one or more cells, number one. Second one, the cell is the basic unit of structure and function in living things. And number three, cells come only from pre-existing cells, not spontaneous generation. So um, the spontaneous generation has been disapproved. So if you're going to look back, for century, people believe in spontaneous generation. The idea that life could arise from non-living matter, maggots from rotting meat, mice from piles of grain. So there are different experiments. The key experiments from Francesco Redi showed that maggots' own meat come from flies, not from the meat itself. And also from Louis Pasteur, uses the swan neck flash experiment para ipakita na yung mga microorganisms do not appear in sterilized broth unless exposed to pre-existing microbes. This experiment disproves spontaneous generation and again reinforce cell theory. Also, we have your Charles Darwin. Charles Darwin published on the origins of the species, proposed a theory of evolution by natural selection, and organisms with disadvantageous traits survive and reproduce more successfully. The key idea is the variation among individuals in population is very important for evolution. Kaya lang, Darwin did not understand kung paano nga ba yung traits na inherit. He just speculated about pangenesis but had no genetic mechanism. Where Gregor Mendel conducted. So he conducted experiments with pea plants or Pisum sativum and discovered the basic principles of inheritance. Traits are controlled but are known as surfactors, quote unquote. Factors are now known as genes. The principle of segregation and independent assortments being created, his idea was largely ignored during his lifetime, again, but discovered in the 1900s, forming the true birth of genetics. So if we're going to put together kung bakit nga ba importante si Darwin and um, Gregor Mendel, Darwin explained kung paano nga ba nagbabago yung species over time, pero syempre, it lacks mechanism of inheritance. But Mendel explained how traits are passed on, pero it did not connect it into evolution. So the ideas combined early century during the modern synthesis, I mean Darwinian evolution and your Mendelian genetics. So this one laid the foundation of modern genetics. So Darwin highlighted the importance of variation for evolution, and Mendel revealed the rules of inheritance. So these two works paved the way para magkaroon ng genetics revolution of the 20th and the 21st centuries, from chromosomes and DNA, genomics, and biotechnology. So Again, moving forward to your 20th century chromosomal theory of inheritance. Siyempre, around early 19th century, scientists combined Mendel's principles of inheritance with cytological observation of chromosomes. So, the result was the chromosomal theory of inheritance, which is proposed independently by Walter Sutton and Tudor Boveri. So the idea of this, that genes are located in chromosomes. Chromosomes carry the genetic information that Mendel called factors, or now known as genes. Um, the gametes are your sperm and egg. The gametes contribute chromosomes to the offsprings. This explains kung why offsprings inherit traits from both parents. Chromosomes behavior during meiosis mirrors Mendel's law. The law of segregation, homologous chromosomes separate during meiosis 1. The law of independent assortment, different chromosomes pairs assort independently. Um, the This theory unified cytology and genetics, showing that heredity and development depend on genetic information residing in chromosome. It provided the physical basis for Mendel's abstract laws and marked the beginning of modern cytogenetics, and eventually led to the discovery of DNA as the genetic material. The chromosomal theory of inheritance connected Mendel's invisible factors to actual structures or the chromosomes observed under the microscope. So pinaliwanag nito kung saan nga ba nanggagaling yung genes, saan sila located, at paano sila natatransmit from generation to generation. In another one, the genetic progressed rapidly from Mendel to DNA in less than a century or 100 years. So again, not going to discuss Rigor Mendel anymore. Going to highlight that in less than a century, genetics advanced from Mendel's simple P plan or the P plan crosses to the molecular understanding of DNA as genetic material. So these rapid changes or progress, pinapakita nito kung paano nga ba yung mga experiment, yung mga cell evidences, and molecular biology built modern genetics step by step. Also, without advanced microscopy, Mendel's principles might remain purely theoretical. The ability to observe chromosomes directly gave a visual, cellular basis for understanding heredity. Also, genetic variation ensures, pag sinabi natin genetic variation, ibig sabihin the differences in DNA sequences among individuals within a population. So, bakit nga ba ito nagmamatter? It is the raw material for evolution. Kung walang variation, natural selection cannot act. Pinapaliwanag nito kung bakit ang isang individual of the same species are not identical. Merong differences in appearance, physiology, and even disease resistance. So, ano nga ba ang pwede nating mga iba't ibang sources ng variation? Sexual reproduction, mutations, and gene flow. Pag sabi ng gene flow, exchange of genes between populations. Sabi natin mutation naman, changes in DNA sequences or sequence that introduce new alleles. So again, these are the sources of your variation. And I just want to highlight that genetic variation um, ensures na two individuals are exactly alike except identical twins. And this diversity is essential for survival, adaptation, and evolution of species. So, paano nga ba natin malalaman kung ang gene sa isang DNA or protein? There are different experiments. So, Griffith showed that traits could be transferred between particle or between bacteria, sorry. Ulitin ko, Griffith showed na yung mga traits natin could be transferred between bacteria. That's the correct one. Avery, McLeod, and uh, McCarthy prove that DNA was the genetic material, overturning the long-held belief that proteins carried genetic information. This picture shows the Griffith experiment. I'm going to discuss that in your lecture number two. So there are different discoveries of the DNA's, double helix transformed genetics from descriptive science into molecular science, allowing researchers para maging pag-aralan yung mga iba't ibang chemical basis of identity. So ang key features ng ating model, DNA is made of two interparallel strands. Each strand has a sugar phosphate backbone on the outside, nitrogenous bases on the inside. Base pairs, specifically your A with D, G with C, through hydrogen bonds, and DNA could be replicated faithfully. So I'm going to discuss this later. Also, this must be discussed to you in the deepened manner by your professor in your cell molecular biology. So the different applications of genetics, recombinant DNA, biotechnology, genomics, proteomics, and bioinformatics. So the new field expanding field. We're going to somehow discuss this later on. Another one are your model organisms. Model organisms are species that scientists use para mapag-aralan yung basic biological process. Kasi nga, they are convenient to work with and their findings are often apply broadly across life. This is important because these mechanisms, DNA replication, transcription, translation, gene regulation, are seen in most organisms from bacteria to humans. By studying these simple organisms, we can we can identify fundamental principles that also explain human biology. There are different criteria for a good model organism. Una, easy to grow and maintain in the laboratory. Pangalawa, short life cycle. Many generations can be studied in a short time. Produce many offsprings, provides large sample sizes, for experiments. Well-studied genetics and often a fully sequenced genome, ibig sabihin yung buong genomic sequences na malalaman natin, and availability of mutants and genetic tools for experimentation. So ano-ano nga ba yung iba't ibang common model organisms in genetics? So meron tayong E. coli, Escherichia coli, bacterium, normally ginagamit for molecular genetics, your yeast, your Saccharomyces cerevisiae for eukaryotic cell biology. Gumagamit din tayo ng fruit fly. Normally sa your classic genetics or developmental genetics. Fruit fly, scientific name. Drosophila melanogaster. Nematode worm. C. elegans. Uh, Sinorhabditis elegans. This normally nematode worms are used for developmental biology and neurobiology. In plants naman, in plant genetics, we normally use A. italiana, uh, Arabidopsis thaliana. And for mammalian genetics, human disease models, we normally use mouse, your M. musculus, mus musculus, mus musculus. So this model organism allows scientists to discover universal genetic principles quickly and efficiently. So discoveries in fruit flies, yeast, and bacteria often apply directly to humans. Okay, so it's the end of our lecture 1.1. You can pause for 5 minutes in order for you to absorb everything here. Okay, but again, I'm going to move forward for lecture number one again, but 1.2 or the basis of your identity. So, um, again, the DNA is a very specific structure. It exists as a double helix, which means it looks like a twisted ladder. This helix is right-handed, meaning it twists clockwise. Each DNA molecule is made of two strands, and these strands are anti-parallel. Ibig sabihin, one runs in the 5' to 3' direction, and the other runs from 3' to 5' direction. These Opposite orientation is very important for DNA replication and proper base pairing. Again, I'm not going to discuss this in a deeper manner because it will be discussed with you by your CMB professors. Um, the sides of the ladder are the sugar phosphate path, while the rungs are made of base pairs, and the bases follow strict rules. So may mga partnering sila kung tawagin. Adenine A, always paired with your thymine T with two hydrogen bonds. Guanine G, always paired with your cytosine, or C with three hydrogen bonds. Okay, so because of these rules, the two strands are complementary. Knowing the sequence of one strand lets you predict the other. So alam mo na A partner with T, G partner with C. Again, this is DNA, not your RNA. Okay? And each strand itself is just a chain of nucleotides. And every nucleotide has three parts. Meron kang sugar, deoxyribose. Meron kang phosphate group, your P group, and one of the four nitrogenous bases, which can be A, T, G, or C. So, this double helix, hindi lang siya basta-basta shape. Ito yung it creates DNA, and DNA can be such a powerful molecule. Kasi nga, it's stable, so genetic information can be stored long-term, reliable, para makopya siya accurately during replication, and readable. So genes can be expressed kung kailangan. And there are different characteristics. There are four characteristics of your genetic materials. Una, replication. Uh, Genetic material must be able to make an exact copy of itself para masigurado that when cells divide, each daughter cell receives the same complete set of genetic instructions. Halimbawa, before cell division, DNA is duplicated, so the amount of genetic material is doubled. Pangalawa, storage of information. DNA serves as a repository of genetic information. The sequence of nucleotides acts like a coded instruction or a manual that can be stored in the cell for long periods of time. Some of this information is actively expressed while other parts may remain silent or even unused. Another two, expression of information and variation by mutation. Um, Stored information must be put to use. Kailangan magamit siya. According to the central dogma of your molecular genetics, DNA makes RNA, which makes proteins. Um, Again, DNA is transcribed into RNA, and RNA is translated into proteins. And proteins carries out structural, enzymatic, and regulatory roles that define the traits and functions of the organisms. Another characteristic is genetic material must allow for changes. Kaya meron kang mutation. Mutations in DNA sequences provide variation or pagkakaiba, kung saan ito yung parang raw material mo for evolution. Not parang, ito talaga yung raw material mo for evolution. While many mutations are neutral or harmful, yung iba dito can lead to beneficial traits that help organisms adapt to their environment. Also, the biggest question back then is, ano nga bang molecule carries genetic information? This was one of the central problems in biology during the early 20th century. Proteins were initially thought to be genetic material kasi nga ito ay complex. Pero dahil sa iba't ibang experiments prove that DNA is a true genetic material done by Griffith, Avery, McLeod, and McCarthy, and the Hershey-Chase experiment. So, I just want to highlight again, Griffith studied Streptococcus pneumoniae in mice. He showed that harmless strain of bacteria could be transformed into harmful One, when mixed with heat-killed virulent bacteria. I'm going to discuss it earlier. Avermectin Macari naman, they just repeated Griffith experiment, but treated the bacterial extracts with enzymes that destroyed proteins, RNA, or DNA. So, tinatawag itong transforming principle. Yung kay Griffith, tinatawag na discovered transformation or transforming um, uh, tama. Discovered transformation, yung Avermectin showed DNA is a transforming principle, and your Hershey Chase experiment naman, confirmed DNA is a genetic material using viruses. I'm going to discuss this one by one. Huwag kang mag-alala. So again, so yung Griffith work with with the bacterium Streptococcus pneumoniae, which causes pneumonia. So itong bacteria na to, merong two forms. Meron kang S. So my cursor here, you have your S strain living. It has a capsule, looks under the microscope, and it is virulent. Ibig sabihin causes seizure. You have your R strain. R strain is rough, lacks capsule, looks rough, and is not non-virulent, harmless. So, ang ginawa ng experiment na to, so si Griffith ay nag-inject ng iba't ibang bacterial preparations. Inject siya sa mice ng S, ng R, ng heated S, at merong nag-inject din siya ng mixed living R, and then heated killed S strain. So, nung in-inject niya yung S or the live strain, namatay yung mice. Kasi nga ito ay isang virulent or virulent strain. Nakakamatay. Pangalawa, nag-inject siya ng living or R strain na buhay. Kasi nga non-virulent ang kanyang nilagay. When he heated the killed S strain, heated killed S strain, um, nabuhay yung mouse kasi the virulence destroyed by the heat. Napatay, caused by the heat. Nabuhay yung mouse. And then sa dulo naman, make sure ng live R strain tsaka ng dead strain kasi heat killed strain nga siya, nabuhay yung mouse. And Griffith recovered some of the live strain bacteria from the dead mouse, from here and from here. Sabi niya, some transforming principle from the dead S cells was taken up by the live R cells. So parang kinonvert them into a virulent S cells. This showed na hereditary information can be transferred between bacteria. Kahit sabihin mo, halimbawa, na dito meron kang living R strain at uh, meron kang dead S strains, pwedeng mag-transform or pwedeng i-convert yung mga live R cells, converting them into S cells. Kasi nakamix na sila. So, tinatawag itong hereditary information or transforming principle. Pangalawa, dito naman, Avery and yung mga kasama niya, Avery, McLeod, and McCarthy, ay pinagpatuloy yung experiment ni Griffith. Ang goal nila was to identify the exact molecule responsible for transformation. Kasi ang nalaman lang naman nagulat lang naman si Griffith na dun sa mix ay merong buhay na S-strain. They took the heat-killed S-strain and destroyed different types of macromolecules para malaman kung ano nga ba yung transforming principle. So, this experiment was conducted in 1944 and proved that the DNA is a transforming principle that Griffith had discovered years earlier. It's very important to find out kasi nga naniniwala ang mga scientists that proteins were the molecules of heredity. So, coming from the experiment of Griffith, Avery and friends wanted to identify the specific molecule. So, in the heat-killed S strain bacteria that could transform the harmless R strain into a deadly S strain, they started with a large batch of heat-killed S-strain bacteria and remove different macromolecules, proteins, lipids, carbohydrates, and nucleic acids para malaman kung ano nga ba yung transforming principle. So in order for them to do this, they use enzymes that specifically break down one type of molecule. Gumamit sila ng proteases para matanggal yung proteins. Broke down proteins. RNases para mawala or broke down RNA. And lineases to broke down DNA. So the team prepared multiple test tubes. And bawat isa contained mixture of live R-strain bacteria and an extract from the heat-killed S-strain bacteria. So meron silang control test tube, meron silang test with proteases, test with RNases, and test with DNAs. Doon sa control test tube nila, the mixture with the full S-strain extract was added to the RS strain. As expected, transformation occurred and the live S-strain bacteria were found. Ibig sabihin that the transforming principle was present dun sa extract na yon. Sa pangalawa, meron silang test with protease. Dito tayo, focus. So, the S-strain, uh, the S-strain extract was treated with protease para mawala, para para masira yung proteins. When this mixture was added to the R-strain, transformation still occurred. Ibig sabihin, the proteins were not the transforming principle. Kasi nga, tinanggal mo na, sinira mo na si protein. Pero nagkaroon pa rin ng transforming yung R strain, naging S strain pa rin siya. Okay? Pangatlo, test with your RNAs dito. So dito, the S-strain extract was treated with RNAs para mawala yung RNA mo. Destroy, sirain. When this mixture was added to the R strain, still transformation still occurred. Si R strain mo, naging S strain pa rin siya. This showed that RNA was not the transforming principle. So wala dito, hindi rin dito. Meron ka pa rin S cells. And then, the next one, test with DNAs. The S strain extract was treated with DNAs para matanggal yung DNA mo. When this mixture was added to the R strain, transformation did not occur. Again, no live S strain bacteria were found. So, the conclusion, the results of the DNAs test were the most important kasi nga, since destroying the DNA with the DNase enzyme, it prevented the transformation from happening. Pinapakita lang nito na yung DNA was the essential molecule responsible for transforming the harmless bacteria into the deadly ones. So, this type of experiment provided conclusive evidence that DNA, not protein, not RNA, is the molecule that carries genetic information. So dito, nagsimula yung groundwork for modern molecular biology. I hope this will going to be discussed you deeper manner in your CND subject. Another one is your Hershey Chase experiment. This was conducted by Alfred Hershey and Martha Chase in 1952. They provided the final definitive proof that DNA, not protein, is a molecule that carries genetic information. Gumamit sila ng virus na tinatawag nating bacteriophage that infects bacteria. The beauty or the importance of this experiment creates chemical differences between DNA and protein. Kahit na medyo malakas ng evidence ng Avery McCarthy experiment, still many scientists were still not convinced. Nag-hold pa rin sila dun sa belief na yung protein nga yan. Kasi nga, complex yung structure niya. And ito yung nagdadala ng genetic information mo. But these two, they have to create another experiment using bacteriophages or viruses that infect bacteria for the knowledge of everyone. Um, so the viruses have a simple structure going to uh what do you call this? Discuss if you're, na-discuss mo sa subject yung microbiome. But it's a protein coat surrounding a core of DNA, and uh uh and uh and Hershey and Chase knew that when a virus infects a cell, it injects genetic material, but its outer shell remain outside. They design experiment para ma-track nila whether the protein or the DNA entered the cell. Gumamit sila ng radioactive isotopes, and they labeled the protein coats with radioactive sulfur. Meron kang S35, since sulfur is in protein but not in DNA. They labeled the DNA naman with radioactive phosphorus. Um, I think 32P, since phosphorus is in DNA but not in protein. After allowing the labeled viruses infect bacteria, gumamit sila ng blender para to remove the empty protein coats of the bacteria surface. They use a centrifuge para ma-separate yung heavy bacteria from the light viral coats. So, ang nangyari, in the sulfur batch, the radioactivity was found in the liquid. So, the empty protein coats, so the bacteria were not radioactive. Dun naman sa 32P mo, the radioactivity was found in the bacterial pellet. Ibig sabihin, this meant the DNA had entered the bacteria. So, since the DNA was the only part of the virus that entered the bacterial cell, it directed the creation of new viruses, and DNA must be the genetic material. So again, I just want to highlight the three experiments created. So Griffith showed the transforming principle existed. Avery, McLeod, and McCarthy identified that this principle was DNA. And Hershey Chase provided the final proof that DNA carries genetic instructions. Kasi nga, tinransfer yung 32P batch papunta dun sa loob ng bacteria. Okay? So, let's move forward. Ah, so I think I already discussed this earlier. So, not going to discuss it anymore. And this one as well. Let's move forward. Again, same lang naman sila ng structure, but here, uh, the nucleotide, the bases, instead of your thymine, you have your uracil. Your RNA is a helper to your DNA. So, ina-allow nila para magkaroon ng protein synthesis to core according to the genetic information that the DNA provides. Meron kang iba't ibang stages. You have your mRNA, tRNA, and your RNA. So, different types of RNA. So, yung mRNA carry sequences information to ribosome. tRNA linkages it in the RNA, mRNA into amino acid, and amino acid para papunta sa ribosomes mo. And RNA, structural component of your ribosomes. So, the difference between ito ay found the DNA found in your nucleus, RNA mostly in cytoplasm. The DNA is the genetic material. RNA is a helper of your DNA. The sugar is deoxyribose. The sugar is ribose, but still they have phosphate group pa rin, both of them. And also, the DNA is double-stranded. The RNA is single-stranded. Okay. Um, so Um, before we discuss your mitosis and meiosis, let's have a brief background, the difference between your chromosome structures, so on and so forth. So chromosomes are the structures that carry genetic information. They are made of chromatin fibers, which are long strands of DNA tightly associated with proteins. These proteins are mainly what they call histones. Okay. Each chromosome contains one continuous DNA molecule carrying thousands of genes. So, meron ka ding nucleosomes. The nucleosomes are the lowest level of chromosome organization. Sa loob ng nucleus mo, DNA is not left loose. Instead, ito ay nakarap around proteins na natawag nating histones. Sama-sama sila, DNA and histones form your nucleosomes. Again, DNA plus histones equals nucleosomes. So, nagmumukha silang beads on a string under the microscope. In bawat nucleosomes, meron silang 146 base pairs of DNA wrapped around a core of 8 histone proteins. Sa CMB, tinatawag itong octamer. So, meron ka ding linker DNA segment connecting from, for example, ito, meron ka ding connecting linker DNA segment connect from one nucleosome papunta dun sa another nucleosome. So, ito, isa itong um, octamer. Kasi nga meron kang 8 subunits. Okay? Again, you have your DNA. And sa DNA, meron ka mga core histones, 8 yan, 8 subunits. Kinoconnect yan sila ng mga DNA uh, linker. Okay? So, nucleosomes are the very fundamental subunits of chromatin. And meron silang, and nakatulong sila, but it fit DNA inside the nucleus kasi nga DNA is 2 meters long per cell. Sobrang haba yon. And also, it regulates gene. Imagine mo sobrang haba, so nag-wrap around sila. And there's a regulatory gene expression by controlling how tightly DNA is bound. Want to clarify, DNA plus histones equals your uh, chromatin. Sorry pala. DNA and histones equals your chromatin. Chromatin cools, it becomes your chromosomes. Nucleosomes are the building blocks of your chromatin organization. So, same lang din naman, DNA and histones form your nucleosomes. Kasi nga, nucleosomes are building blocks of chromatin organization. Okay? The DNA packaging the nucleus. So, the human nucleus is only 10 nanometer in no yeah, nanometer in diameter. It contains almost 2 meters of DNA per cell. So to fit this huge length of into such a tiny space, yung DNA undergoes multiple levels of packaging. So and it increases its compactness. So una, you have your nucleosomes. Nucleosomes, DNA wraps around histones, protein para makabuo ka ng nucleosomes or bead on strings. This shortens the DNA length about sevenfold. And then next one, you have your 30 nanometer fiber. Um, Nucleosome coil further into a 30 nanometer chromatin fiber. So it can be a solenoid or zigzag structure. So this increases compaction and become your uh, 40 folds. Next one is your loop domains in higher order folding. The 13 nanometer fiber forms loops attached to a protein scaffold. So para nag-condense siya, further condensing the DNA. So imagine during interphase, this allows regions of DNA para mag-open or close for gene expression. And your mitotic chromosome, at cell division, chromatin is compacted to its maximum level. DNA achieves a packing ratio of about 10,000 folds, forming the visible metaphase chromosomes under a microscope. So again, nucleosome, 30 nanometer fiber, loop domains in higher order folding in mitotic chromosome, or the 10,000 folding. Okay? So meron ring heterochromatin and euchromatin. This was just introduction to your CMB. So sana tawag to, um, ma-cross nyo ang mga terms na itong mga sinasabi ko. Again, um, you also have your euchromatin and heterochromatin. So, euchromatin after mitosis, euchromatin returns to a dispersed, less condensed state. So, kasi nga, it is loosely packed, euchromatin is accessible for transcription machinery. So, para yung euchromatin mo magkaroon ng active form of chromatin where most genes are being expressed. Heteric chromatin naman remains highly condensed even during interphase. Generally, ito yung mga transcriptionally inactive. Ibig sabihin, genes are silenced. Merong dalawang bagay na heterochromatin. Meron kang constitutive at facultative. Constitutive naman, always condensed in all cell types and throughout the life of the organism. Found in most around centromeres and telomeres. Constitutive contains highly repetitive sequences and very few genes. Facultative heterochromatin naman can switch between active euchromatin and inactive heterochromatin state. Example, mga X chromosomes mo, X chromosome inactivation in female mammals. One X chromosome becomes condensed into a bar body. The process is very random in each cell. Some cells express genes from the maternal X and the other from the paternal X. So, ang resulta nito, adult females or genetic mosaics. So, iba-iba. Again, just want to highlight euchromatin are active dispersed gene rich. In term ha, active dispersed gene rich. We're going to discuss this in the next few months. Heterochromatin inactive condensed gene poor. Heterochromatin, pwede siyang dalawang bagay. Constitutive, always silent, can be found in your centromere and telomeres. Facultative, sometimes silent kasi nga pwede kang magkaroon ng random process in some cells. So, meron kang X inactivation, yung X chromosome mo. Okay? So, like what I've mentioned earlier, facultative, unlike constitutive heterochromatin, it can switch between an active and an active state. So, pag nangyari ito, pag inactivated only during certain stages of development or phases ng organisms. So, in female mammals, you have your XX1 X chromosome each L is randomly activated para mabalance yung gene dosage niya with males or XY. The inactivated X becomes a condensed structure na tinatawag nating bar body, which is very visible um, example of your facultative heterochromatin. The X inactivation occurs randomly sa bawat cell. It can be maternal or paternal X. And adult females are genetic mosaics. Ibig sabihin, some cells express genes from the maternal X, others from the paternal X. So, again, the example nito ay yung cats in cats. In female mammals, one of the randomly inactivated in cells called your calico coat patterns. The fur color gene is located on the X chromosomes. Halimbawa, one X carries the allele for black fur and the other carries the allele for orange fur. In some cells, the maternal X is inactivated. Only the paternal X, sabihin natin, orange, is active. In other cells naman, the paternal X is inactivated. Only the maternal X, sabihin natin, black, is active. Random inactivation creates patches ng black and orange fur. So, ang resulta, the cat's coat shows a mosaic pattern, which is a visible example of X inactivation and facultative heterochromatin in action. So, again, X inactivation is random. In humans, it makes female genetic mosaic, but not visible. In cat, the effect is visible as thought in your calico patterns or calico coat patterns. Okay, so this is the last slide for the lecture number 2. You can pause it for 5 minutes and let's move forward to your lecture 1.3. Ito, bibilisan na lang natin kasi I know you have an idea na rin naman during your mitosis and meiosis. But let's just put it in a very light discussion. Kasi I know it's been an hour. Okay? So, DNA and your chromosomes, we're going to discuss in a perspective of genetics. Again, DNA is the hereditary material of living organisms, carries genetic code for building proteins and controlling cellular functions. DNA is as a long string. It is organized into units called genes. And ang bawat gene is specific sequence of nucleotides that encodes information para sa particular trait or function. Para mabisa ang pag-store or transmit yung information. DNA molecules are tightly packaged with proteins into chromosomes. In humans, halimbawa, bawat somatic cell consists of 46 chromosomes or the three pairs. Also have your mitosis. Mitosis is a type of nuclear division responsible for producing genetically identical cells. Pagkatapos ng replication of DNA in the S phase of the cell cycle, sinisigurado ng mitosis na bawat daughter cell receives a complete set of chromosomes. And the chromosome number remains constant. If the parent cell is diploid to N, bawat 46 in humans, ang bawat daughter cell will also be diploid 46. Again, mitosis maintains genetic stability during growth, tissue repair, and asexual reproduction. And mitosis prevents the loss or gain of chromosomes under normal condition. So, isipin mo lang na yung mitosis as creating an exact duplicate of a document. Nothing is added or lost. Copy and paste lang. On the other hand, your meiosis is a specialized type of um, cell division that produces gametes or sperms and eggs. Unlike your mitosis, meiosis involves two, paano ba? Two uh, successive divisions, meiosis 1 and 2, but only one round of DNA replication. The outcome is four non-identical daughter cells, each with half the chromosome number of the original cell. Halimbawa, if the parent cell is diploid, 2n equals 46 in humans, the gametes are haploid or n equals 23. Ang paghati nila is very important so that when fertilization occurs, the diploid number is restored. The importance of meiosis is to maintain the consistency of chromosome number across generation. It also introduces genetic variation, katulad through the processes of crossing over, independent assortment, which are very important sa evolution. So kung ang mitosis ay copy and paste, meiosis naman halimbawa, para kang nag-split or nag-shuffle ka ng deck of cards. Bawat gametes gets half a deck. And when two gametes fuse, the full deck is being restored. Pero, iba't iba na yung mga combination niya. Okay? So, I just want to highlight again, para baka makalimutan. Mitosis, genetic stability. So, it is more on somatic cells for growth and repair. Meiosis is for genetic diversity plus chromosome number maintenance. Gametes for reproduction. Itong mga prosesong ito, in-explain sa atin kung gaano nga ba or kung paano nga ba yung organism can grow, heal, reproduce without losing or doubling the genetic information every generation. Okay? I just also want to highlight, bago tayo mag-start ng mitosis, chromosome, um, this chromosomes can be classified by the centromere location. So the centromere is the constricted region of a chromosome that plays this one in the center. A very important role during cell division. Kasi dito nag-attach yung mga spindle fibers mo via your kinetochore. So the centromere divides the chromosome into two arms. Meron kang P arm, petite, the small or short arm, and the Q arm are the longer arm. P for petite, the shorter arm. The Q arm is your longer arm. So, for example, this one is your P arm, this one is your Q. Okay? Wala dito. Okay. So, depending on where the centromere is located, chromosomes can be classified into four main types. So, centromere, meron ka dito metacentric. The centromere is located at, at or near the middle. So, the P and Q arms are almost equal in length, but chromosomes looks like V-shape during anaphase. Human, normally ito ay chromosome in human, these are chromosome number one. Um, Submetacentric naman, the second one, this one, the centromere is slightly off-center. So the P arm is shorter na, this one, and then the Q arm. So the chromosome looks like L shape. Okay. So if we're going to uh example, I think this is human chromosome number four. Not I think. That's chromosome number four. Next one is your acrocentric. Acrocentric's centromere is very close to one end. Medyo nasa short arm. So P arm is very short. Sometimes with satellite tip, ito, sa taas. And Q arm is very long. So medyo mukha na silang letter J. So sa human chromosomes, if I'm not mistaken, there are number 13, 14, 15. So yun po 5 yun. But I remember 13, 14, 15. And then the last one is your telocentric. Telocentric are the centromere is at the very end. Wala ka ng tawag dito. Wala ka ng um, P arm. So it only has one arm. You only have Q arm. Hindi sila masyadong nakikita sa humans, pero lagi silang nakikita sa ibang organism katulad ng daga, mice. Again, we have four. We have your meta, submeta, acrocentric, and telocentric. Metacentric, submetacentric, acrocentric, and telocentric. Okay? You also have your homologous chromosomes. Homologous chromosomes are pairs of chromosomes that have the same length, centromere position, and gene arrangement. One of the pair comes from the maternal parent, the egg, and the other from the paternal parent, the sperm. They contain the same gene loci, ibig sabihin yung position, along their lengths. Halimbawa, if a gene for eye color is located at a specific site on one chromosome, halimbawa dito, nasa A, the same site on its homolog will also carry a gene for eye color. Nasa A din dapat. So, the genes on homologous chromosome may not be identical. One chromosome may carry an allele for blue eyes and the other for brown eyes. So during meiosis, homologous chromosome pair up and can exchange segments during crossing over, which now increases genetic diversity. So unlike your autosomes, which are homologous pairs, sex chromosomes are not always identical in size, centromere precision, arm ratio, or genetic content. So again, in your homologous chromosome, yung tatlong yon, for example, your same length, centromere precision, and gene arrangement are your characteristic para masabing homologous yung chromosomes mo. Katulad ng autosomes mo, hindi kailangan pare-parehas. X chromosome, halimbawa sa human, X chromosome is large with many genes. Y chromosome is much smaller with fewer genes. Kahit na magkaiba sila, they contain homologous regions. Katulad ng pseudoautosomal regions or pars. These regions allow the X and Y pair to segregate like homologs during meiosis. In order for us to identify them, they determine sex of the individual, XX and XY, male or female, yung unang function niya. Pangalawa, the Y chromosome carries genes like sex-determining region, the Y, that trigger male development. So laging si Y yung siya yung laging malalaman mo kung lalaki or babae yung isang um, organism. So, sex chromosomes, special cases, chromosomes in pair. So, they can not always homologous structure. Mga sex chromosomes differ in size. They share homologous regions. May mga pseudosomal regions or pairs. These regions are identical on both chromosomes that allows them to align, pair, and undergo recombination during meiosis. And also behavior as homologs. Even though X and Y differ in molar length, they still behave as homologous pair during meiosis because nga they shared your PAR or pseudo-autosomal regions. Um, this pairing is very important for segregation ng sex chromosomes into gametes. Without errors, pwede kang magkaroon ng iba't ibang, without it, errors like non-disjunction can occur. Ibig sabihin, pwede itong mag-lead sa disorder, katulad ng Turner, XO, Klinefelter, or your Klinefelter or your XXY. Okay? So, again, napaliwanag ito kanina. Your diploid are your 2N, and your haploid are your N. Diploid cell contains two complete set of chromosomes. One set inherited from the mother, and one set father. So each chromosome is called your homologous pair. So diploid number 46 to n equals to 46. So ito ay nakikita sa somatic body cells katulad ng skin, muscle, nerve cells, and maintains full genetic information for growth, repair, and normal cellular function. Haploid naman contains only one set of chromosomes, which is the diploid number. Haploid cells do not have homologous pairs. Again, haploid cells do not have homologous pairs, just one chromosome from each set. Haploid number 23 chromosomes, N equals 23. They're either from the maternal or paternal side, but not both. Okay? Found in gametes, sperm, and egg cells, ensures that during fertilization, when two haploid gametes fuse, the diploid number 46 is restored in the zygote. So, your cell cycle is the sequence of events by which cell grows, duplicates its content, and divides into two daughter cells. Meron itong dalawang parte, your interphase, the longest phase, 90% of the cycle, and the M phase, the mitotic phase, the cell division. So, again, your mitosis is for sexual reproduction in unicellular organisms like your amoeba, paramecium. Mitosis serves as the mode of reproduction. The parent cell divides into two genetically identical offspring, ensuring species continuity without gametes. Growth and development, in multicellular organisms, mitosis of the mitosis is the foundation of growth. In single-celled zygote, divides repeatedly through mitosis to form a multicellular organism. Continuous development of this division are responsible for increasing cell number during development. Also, wound healing, and tissue repair, when tissues are damaged, mitosis replaces the lost or injured cells with new ones, katulad ng skin cells undergo rapid metastasis during wound healing. Cell replacement, many cells in the body have short lifespan. So, mitosis continually regenerates yung cells para mapalitan yung luma or yung sira ng mga cells mo. And again, for genetic stability. So before a cell divides, its chromosomes are first replicated during S phase. So mitosis ensures that these duplicated chromosomes um, are partitioned accurately into the daughter cell. So this precise distribution maintains the um, what do you call this uh, this precision maintains the same chromosome number and genetic information in every cell of the organism. So you have your mitosis, you have your interface. So dito sa interface, wala yung slide ko na eto pala. In your interface, you have your G1, S, and your G2. Si G1, dito nakikita kung lumalaki yung cell. Kailangan mo na enough nutrients para makita yung lumaki yung cell. Sa S-phase naman ito yung DNA replication. Dito nag-replicate yung mga DNA sequences or DNA cell. And yung G2 mo, dito piniprepare yung cell division para check niya ba kung enough na ba yung cell growth, kung nag-divide pa talaga yung DNA mo bago ka mag-undergo ng M phase. So, meron kang G0, G0, kung tawagin. These are after the G1. So, kung hindi masok sa requirements ng mga bagay-bagay, pasok sa cell sa G0 or G0. It's either i-repair siya or magkakaroon ka ng autoptosis or magharakiri, cell die. Okay? So, the first one is your prophase. So, prophase in your mitosis, dito nagkakaroon ng chromatin condensation. So, during interphase, the DNA exists as chromatin or a loose thread-like form. So, in prophase, chromatin condenses and coils tightly into visible chromosomes. Each chromosome Each chromosome is made up of two sister chromatids joined at the centromere. So this condensation prevents the tangling and ensures accurate segregation later. So also magkaroon disappearance sa nuclear structures. The nuclear envelope begins to break down and the nucleolus disappears. So it allows spindle fiber para ma-access yung chromosomes inside the nucleus nun. So magko-form din yung mitotic spindle. So the mitotic spindle, again, mitotic spindle is microtubules. So it will start to form. So again, mitotic spindle is the structure made of microtubules. So ito ay go-form na siya agad. So microtubules attached to the kinetochore. Kinetochore is a protein complexes located at the centromere of each chromatid. And these spindle fibers will guide the movement of chromosomes during the division. And mag-migrate din yung mga centrosome mo. The centrosome begin to move toward opposite poles of the cell. So centrosomes are microtubule organizing centers. So in order for them to establish this one, there is what called the bipolar spindle apparatus. So this is very important for proper chromosome alignment and segregation. The next one is your metaphase. Meron kang chromosome alignment. So, this stage chromosome are fully condensed and clearly visible under the microscope. Bawat chromosome ay merong two sister chromatids and ito ay naka-attach din sa spindle fiber from opposite poles via the kinetochore. So, metaphase plate formation, the chromosome align at the equatorial plane of the cell, known as the metaphase plate. So, this plate is an imaginary line midway between the two spindle poles. Not a physical structure, but a position where chromosome line up. Again, magkakaroon ka ng centromere positioning. So, the centromeres of all chromosomes are precisely aligned along the metaphase plate. So, para masigurado na yung para sigurado when chromatids separate, ang bawat daughter cell will receive one complete set of chromosomes. And sa dulo nun, magkakaroon ka ng checkpoint control. The cell has a critical spindle assembly checkpoint at metaphase. So the cycle will not proceed to anaphase until all chromosomes are properly attached to spindle fibers and aligned correctly. Para iwasan yung missegregation that can lead to abnormal chromosome number or aneuploidy. The next one is your anaphase. So, separation ng sister chromatids or disjunction, mag-split yung centromere mo and the sister chromatids that are previously joined are pulled apart. Ang bawat chromatids is now considered an individual chromosome. Mag-move to papuntang opposite poles. So, the spindle fibers shorten or sa molecular biology, depolymerize at the kinetochore, pulling the chromatids toward the opposite poles of the cell para masigurado na ang bawat daughter cell will receive an identical set of chromosomes. And the non-kinetochore microtubules, those not attached to chromosomes, elongate for pole separation, pushing the poles of the cell farther apart. Para dito, natulungan the cell stretch in separation for division. And this lead to genetic stability. Because of this precise separation, ang bawat daughter cells will have the same chromosome number as the original parent cell. Errors in this stage can lead to abnormal chromosome number like non-disjunction. Also have your telophase. So, meron kang chromosome decondensation, chromosome losing to chromatin. So, the chromosomes that were tightly condensed during mitosis now uncoil and loosen back into chromatin. Dahil dito, this makes them less visible under microscope but allows the cell to resume normal genetic activity or transcription. Um, Magkakaroon din ng nuclear reappear or reformation ng nuclear structures. So the nuclear envelopes reform around each set of chromosomes at the two poles and dahil do, nuclear reappear. So ibig sabihin, the cells return to normal nuclear function. In this assembly of the spindle, the mitotic spindle fibers will pull chromosomes apart and break down and disappear. So cytokinesis usually begins during late telophase. So it divides the cytoplasm into two daughter cells. Ang bawat isa ay merong nucleus na identical genetic material. In animal cells, cleavage furrow forms, so para kang pinching the cell into two. And in plant cells, a cell plate forms, which later develops into a new cell wall. So dito, you have your cleavage furrow, ito ay your cell plate. Magkakaroon ka ng dalawa. So, excuse me, this is what I mentioned earlier for the session na. The cell cycle, you have your regulation and checkpoint. So the cell cycle must be tightly regulated para masigurado that cells divide at the right time and with intact DNA and correct chromosome number. Uncontrolled cell cycle progression can lead to disorders katulad ng cancer. So checkpoints, the cell use checkpoints as quality controls or stations before moving to the next phase. You have your G1. Your G1, of course, at the end of the G1 restriction period, restriction point, the G1, of course, at the end of G1 before entering S phase. So, dito, the cell checks if the DNA is intact, are growth factors and nutrients enough, or is the environment favorable? Kung conditions ay hindi na-meet ang conditions, the cell may enter the G0, G0, or the resting state. Doon lang muna sila for repair or until masuffice yung mga checklist like cell size, nutrients, growth factors, and DNA damage. The next one is your G2 checkpoint. So G2 occurs after DNA replication, before mitosis. So the cell checks was the DNA replicated correctly? Dun sa S. Is there any DNA damage? Are resources available for mitosis? If errors are detected, the cycle pauses for DNA repair. Kung wala, edi tuloy-tuloy sila. And the next one is your M checkpoint. This one occurs during metaphase. The spindle will assemble a checkpoint. So the cell checks, for example, are all chromosomes properly attached, spindle fibers backing at the cores, or are they aligned at the metaphase plate? So it prevents an equal chromosome separation or again, non-disjunction, abnormalities, kumbaga. So meron tayong mga iba't ibang molecular controls or their cyclins and your CDKs. Cyclins are proteins kung saan whose level fluctuate during the cell cycle. Parang meron kang rise and fall. Your CDKs naman, your cyclin-dependent kinases. These are enzymes that are always present in the cell but are inactive unless bound to cyclins. Paano nga ba nag-work itong mga CDKs and cyclins na ito? When a specific cyclin binds to its CDK, the structure becomes active. The active cyclin CDK complex phosphorylates. Isa natin phosphorylates, it adds phosphate groups to your specific protein target or target proteins. And itong mga phosphorylated, ibig sabihin yung mga phosphate groups na CDK, proteins, trigger the cell para mag-move forward or mag-progress dun sa next phase mo. Halimbawa, in G1S, meron kang cyclin CDK doon. G1S cyclin CDK helps the cell pass the G1 checkpoint and trigger siya ng DNA replication. Kasi nga, phosphorylated na siya. Again, pag hindi ka phosphorylated, ibig sabihin wala kang phosphate group, hindi yun magpa-progress. Kasi nga, si phosphorylate yung magti-trigger dun sa cell progression mo para makapunta ka dun sa next phase. The M phase, another example, the M phase cycling CDK, it promotes chromosome condensation and spindle formation for mitosis. Ganun lang yun. We'll not discuss this further because again, this will be discussed in your CMB. Ano nga bang purpose nito? So, this regulation matters kasi nga it prevents damage or incomplete DNA from being passed on, cell growth with cell division, and protects against uncontrolled cell proliferation. So, checkpoints, when checkpoint control fails, non-disjuncture occur, or best example, cancer. So again, checkpoints like sa CCTV, make sure everything is correct before moving on. Surveillance system. CDK and cyclins are your molecular switches. Ito yung magdadrive that cycle can move forward when conditions are right. Sila ang mga security guards. Kumbaga. Okay? The next one is your meiosis. Ay, this is very easy na lang. Kasi nga, meiosis naman na to. Meiosis are specialized type of cell division that produces gametes, sperm, and eggs in animals, spores naman sa plants. So, ang main purpose nito is to reduce the chromosome number by ensuring that offspring have the correct diploid number when gametes unite. Okay? So, each gamete receives precisely one member of each homologous chromosome pair, and in humans, diploid is 2n, haploid is n23, or n equals 23 to n equals 46. Um, the purpose of this is for genetic continuity. So, by having the chromosome number in gametes, meiosis ensures na kung magkaroon ng fertilization, the diploid number is stored in the zygote. So, this maintains chromosome stability across generation. So, sorry. So, meron kang two successive divisions, the meiosis 1 and the meiosis 2. The meiosis 1 is a reductional division. Homologous chromosomes separate. Chromosome number is reduced from diploid to haploid. And dito nangyayari yung crossing over and independent assortment through genetic variation. The next one is the meiosis 2 is your equational division. Sister chromatids separate similar to mitosis. And ano ba? A chromosome number does not change. Haploidy is always maintained. So the final outcome for meiosis, each one diploid cell produces four haploid cells. And each haploid cell is genetically unique kasi nga meron kang recombination tsaka nga independent assortment. Recombination is another term for crossing over. Okay. So again, meiosis, it reduces and varies. It reduces chromosome number and shuffle genetic material para magkaroon ng continuity ng species tsaka diversity among individuals. The first one is your prophase 1. So prophase 1 is much longer and more elaborate than prophase in mitosis kasi nga it emphasizes three events: chromosome condensation, synapses, tsaka crossing over. So pag naman chromosome condensation, chromatin fibers condense and coil into visible chromosomes. Ang bawat chromosome ay merong dalawang sister chromatids na magkasama at the centromere. And meron ka ditong cohesin. Itong cohesin protein na to hold the sister chromatids together para ma-sure na properly aligned and segregation ay tama mamaya. Pangalawa, synapsis, pairing ng homologous chromosomes. Homologous chromosomes, one maternal and one paternal, recognize and align with each other. Yung bawat isa, this close alignment forms a structure na tawag natin synaptonemal complex para ma-hold yung homologs tightly together. Ang resulta, magkakaroon ka ng apat na chromatids, two from each homolog, which is we call your tetrad, or in some sources, bivalent or bivalent. Pangatlo, have your crossing over or genetic recombination. Non-sister chromatids within a tetrad physically exchange corresponding segments of DNA. Sorry, medyo mabilis na ako kanina. This process occurs at points called what you call chiasmata. Crossing over creates new combination of alleles, which increases genetic diversity in the mix. Again, prophase 1 is very unique to meiosis kasi nga Homologs paired up, not just chromatids, okay? Homologs paired up. Crossing over occurs, ensuring genetic variation. And kung wala ito, meiosis would simply be mitosis with two divisions. But it is, pero itong prophase na to, um, creates or makes the gametes genetically unique. And prophase 1 has five stages. Una, leptonema, or in some books, it is leptotene. Thin threads, kumbaga. So, chromatin begins to condense into long, thin, thread-like chromosomes. Each chromosome has already duplicated and is composed of two sister chromatids, pero they are not clearly visible as double structures. And chromosomes start searching for their homologous partners. Next one is their zygote or paired threads. Homologous chromosomes pair up in a process called synapsis. So meron kang protein structure na tinatawag natin na mention kanina, synaptonemal complex, na nagpo-form between homologs that hold them in tight alignment. And ang bawat isa, and each pair is now a tetrad or containing four chromatids. The next one is your paikinema or paikitin thick threads. Yung isa, you have your paired threads. Isa, you have your thin threads, paired threads, and thick threads. Paikitin, here, chromosomes thicken and shorten, becoming more visible. Crossing over or genetic recombination occurs between non-sister chromatids, and sites of crossover begin to form. We call that sites of crossover is your chiasmata. So in that, so that they're going to link the homologous chromosomes physically. The next one is your diplonema. In system, the two threads. So, uh, the complex will be dissolved, and homologous chromosomes begin to separate. However, they remain connected at the chiasmata or the points of crossing over. Some organisms, chromosomes pause at the stage for extended periods. For example, oocytes in humans can remain in diplotin for years. So ito ay your two threads. The last one is your diakinesis or the moving apart. So chromosomes are fully condensed and highly coiled, ready for metaphase one. And chiasmata move toward chromosome ends. Or in some books, they call it terminalization. The nuclear envelope breaks down, nucleolus disappears, and spindle fibers begin to form. So again, prophase 1 is the longest and most important stage of the meiosis because it ensures homolog pairing, crossing over, and genetic diversity. So again, the five stages help you to trace how chromosomes go from loose threads, the leptin, the paired one, the zygote, the recombined one, the picotin, the separating one, the diplotin, and the condensed and ready for division, which is your diakinesis. Loose threads, paired, recombined, separate, condensed, and ready for division. Leptotene, zygote, picotin, diplotin, and your diakinesis. So the next one after that stages is your metaphase one. So homologous chromosomes pairs, tetrads aligned, metaphase plate, the fibers attached to each homolog, not to sister chromatids. Anaphase 1 naman, homologs, chromosomes separate, and move to opposite poles, sister chromatids remain attached at the centromere, para mabawasan yung number from diploid to your haploid. And then the last one, telophase 1, chromosomes may partially condense. Nuclear envelope may reform, depends on the species. And meron kang cytoplasm. Siyempre, two haploid daughter cells form. Meron ka ring interkinesis. Interkinesis is a short resting period between your meiosis 1 at meiosis 2. So, para siyang interface. Pero, the key difference is wala silang DNA replication. So, walang S phase, walang mga ganun. So, the cell may show a brief recovery period after mitosis. So, chromosomes may partially be condensed. Again, depends sa species na yun. So, ang purpose ng interkinesis is to give the cell time to recognize before entering the meiosis 2. para masigurado na haploid cells from meiosis 1 proceed directly into the second division without duplicating chromosomes. Para ang outcome ay the cell enters meiosis 2 with the same haploid chromosomes number and had after meiosis 1. So, kumbaga, sorry, excuse me, si interkinesis are your pause button. And then, again, same. Prophase 2, your meiosis 2 is similar to mitosis 1 except cells are haploid. Again, your meiosis 2 is similar to your mitosis 1. Maliban na lang, yung cells mo ay haploid. Again, your prophase 2, condensation ng chromosomes, spindle fibers reform, nuclear envelope breaks down, it had reformed. Metaphase 2, chromosomes align individually along the metaphase plate. Each chromosome is attached to spindle fibers to form from opposite poles. Anaphase 2, sister chromatids separate and move to opposite poles. Each chromatid is now an independent chromosome. And again, you have your telophase 2 in cytokinesis. Chromosomes condense back into chromatin. Nuclear envelopes reform around each set. And then, magkakaroon ka ng cytoplasm division or your cytokinesis. Four haploid cells are produced each genetically unique. Again, if we're going to highlight meiosis 1 and meiosis 2, meiosis 1 is for diploid to haploid, homolog separate. Meiosis 2, haploid to haploid, sister chromatid separate. Ang resulta mo ay meron kang apat na non-identical haploid gametes. Okay? If you have any questions, just email me. Yun lang. So, thank you so much for listening for 2 hours. So, I hope we understand. Just kindly repeat the video if necessary. Okay? Thank you so much. Maraming salamat.